Do you know which country is both the most obese and the least visited in the world? Today we'll explore Nauru, a mysterious island in the Pacific Ocean with an astonishing story. Hello, in this video we'll discover Nauru together, a tiny island nation that holds incredible tales of prosperity and decline, along with serious social and environmental issues. Join me as we uncover why this place has become one of the most avoided destinations on Earth. Journey to the Forgotten Land. Imagine a tiny island, isolated in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. That's Nauru, a mysterious island nation few people know about. When it comes to isolation, Nauru isn't just a fancy phrase, it's the living reality of this island. Want to visit Nauru? Brace yourself for a true adventure. The nearest island, Banaba in Kiribati, is over 300 kilometers away. If you want to set foot on a continent, get ready for a 5-hour flight to Brisbane, Australia, almost 3,000 kilometers away. Or if you prefer heading east, Honolulu in Hawaii is more than 4,000 kilometers distant. But don't let the distance discourage you. This very isolation has created Nauru's wild and mysterious beauty. Surrounded by stunning coral reefs and with a rugged inland terrain, this island is like a precious gem in the deep blue ocean. The difficult access, with only one international airport with limited flights and no natural harbor, only adds to its allure. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about Nauru is the stories hidden behind its small exterior. From sudden prosperity to rapid decline, from environmental challenges to complex social issues, Nauru is a treasure trove of stories waiting to be discovered. So, are you curious to know what happened to this tiny island? How did a place once considered the richest in the world become one of the least visited countries? Join us as we continue our journey to uncover the secrets behind this forgotten paradise. Tiny island, Nauru, where you can walk around an entire country. Imagine a country you can explore entirely in just one afternoon. That's Nauru, the world's third smallest nation with an area of only 21 kilometers squared. When you set foot on this island, you'll instantly feel a special closeness. Beaches, administrative center, and houses, all within eyesight, creating an amazingly compact community. While Vatican City shines as the spiritual heart of Catholicism and Monaco sparkles with glamour on the French coast, Nauru is a hidden gem in the Pacific Ocean. This is where time seems to stand still, far from the spotlight of the modern world. But don't let Nauru's small size fool you. This island holds big stories and secrets waiting to be discovered. And if you think the tiny size is the most special thing about Nauru, wait until you hear about its unique transportation system. You won't believe what we're about to explore next. The island with a 30 kilometers waistline. Imagine a country you can drive around in just 1 hour. That's Nauru, with its tiny 30 kilometers paved road hugging the coastline. On this journey, you'll marvel at the beauty of the blue sea and breathtaking landscapes without any rush. And don't worry about parking. With only one gas station and few vehicles, you'll never face traffic jams. But roads aren't the only transportation story in Nauru. The island boasts a charming 4-kilometer railway, built in 1975. This isn't just a means of transport, it's a living symbol of the island nation's ups and downs. Once used to transport phosphate, the resource that brought wealth to Nauru, it now stands as a reminder of a glorious past. But Nauru's story doesn't end with roads and rails. What happened to the precious resource that once brought prosperity to this island? And how did such a small nation experience such massive changes? Join us as we explore the surprising tale of Nauru, where prosperity and decline intertwine in a strange dance. The non-existent capital, mystery of a nation without a center. Imagine a country without a political heart. Unbelievable, right? But that's Nauru, a tiny island that breaks all rules about national structure. While other countries boast about their grand capitals, Nauru chooses a completely different path. Instead of a bustling city with skyscrapers and busy streets, Nauru has Yaren, a small district peacefully nestled on the southern coast. Here, the parliament building stands next to modest houses, and embassies of Taiwan and Australia fit snugly in residential areas. Amazingly, the country's only international airport is also here, creating a unique scene you'd hardly find anywhere else in the world. But don't be mistaken, Yaren is not a capital in the traditional sense. It's more like a small fishing village, tasked with running an entire country. No wide boulevards or grand squares here, just narrow roads winding between houses and trees. This is where politics and daily life blend naturally, creating an unprecedented picture of country management. But Nauru's story doesn't end there. Are you curious about daily life on this island without a capital? How can a country function without an official center? and what makes Nauru so special in the eyes of visitors. Join us as we continue to explore the fascinating secrets of this unique island in the next part. Mysterious island where visitors rarely set foot. Have you ever dreamed of exploring a place that only a few people in the world have visited? Let me tell you about Nauru, a hidden paradise island in the Pacific Ocean, welcoming only about 200 tourists each year. Yes, you heard that right, 200 people in a whole year. But why is such a beautiful place so unknown? The answer lies in its isolation. Imagine planning a trip to Nauru. First, you'll face the challenge of finding a flight. Only one airline operates here, with limited schedules and prices that might make you think twice. And if you overcome that hurdle, another challenge awaits. The visa process can be so complex that many people give up. But don't let these difficulties discourage you, because if you persist, the reward is truly worth it. Imagine becoming one of the fewer than 15,000 people who have ever set foot on this island, a number much smaller than those who've climbed Mount Everest. You'll join an exclusive club of explorers who have discovered one of the Pacific's best-kept secrets. But Nauru isn't just a hard-to-reach destination. Behind the peaceful exterior of this tiny island lies a story full of surprises and paradoxes. Are you curious about daily life on an island with almost no tourists? And what made Nauru, once the richest country in the world, become so isolated? Join me as we uncover the amazing secrets of Nauru in the next part. The island without an army, peace amidst the ocean. Can you imagine a country without a single soldier? That's Nauru, a tiny island in the Pacific Ocean where peace isn't just a concept, it's a way of life. Here, you won't see tanks or hear fighter jets. Instead, tranquility reigns supreme, with only the sound of waves hitting the shore and wind rustling through palm trees. But how can a country exist without an army? The answer lies in the special relationship between Nauru and Australia. While most countries spend billions on defense, Nauru chose a different path. They put their trust in their giant neighbor, Australia, to protect them from external threats. This isn't a hasty decision, but an agreement that has lasted for decades, proving the wisdom of Nauru's leaders. Instead of pouring money into weapons and military training, Nauru focuses its limited resources on improving people's lives. This means more investment in education, healthcare, and community development. Meanwhile, internal security is maintained by a small but effective local police force. They don't just keep order, they're an integral part of the community, understanding and meeting the needs of local people. This strategy isn't just simple, it's extremely effective. For a country with a population the size of a small neighborhood in big cities, having no army becomes a unique advantage. It allows Nauru to focus on what really matters, building a peaceful and prosperous community. But the story of Nauru doesn't end there. Are you curious about daily life on an island without an army? How can such a small nation face global challenges? And does the absence of an army affect Nauru's position on the international stage? Join us as we explore more fascinating aspects of this unique island in the next part. Fat Island, life on the island of gigantic numbers. Imagine a place where being fat isn't just a condition, but a part of cultural identity. Welcome to Nauru, the island where 80% of the population carries stories of exceptional weight. But don't judge too quickly, this story is more complex than you think. In the past, a full figure in Nauru wasn't just a sign of abundance, but a symbol of success and happiness. Leaders proudly showed off their big bellies as if they were Olympic gold medals. However, what they didn't realize was that they were unknowingly nurturing a ticking health time bomb. When the phosphate, the island's main resource, ran out, Nauru's people faced a harsh reality. Farmland disappeared, replaced by dependence on processed foods rich in fat and sugar. Combined with a sedentary lifestyle, the result was an unprecedented health crisis. But that's not all. While 40% of the population is struggling with diabetes, another habit is silently gnawing at people's health: smoking. Nauru isn't just famous for its high obesity rate, but it's also one of the countries with the highest smoking rates in the world. So how does such a tiny island bear so many health problems? And is there any hope for Nauru's future? Join me as we explore the amazing efforts of the people here in facing this challenge and how they are step by step rewriting the definition of health and happiness on their island. From wealthy paradise to debt-ridden desert. Let's turn back the pages of Nauru's surprising history together. Can you believe that this tiny Pacific island was once called the Kuwait of the Pacific? Incredible but true. Nauru was once the richest country in the world per capita. The story begins in the 1970s when Nauru discovered a treasure beneath its feet: phosphate. This white gold, formed over centuries from seabird droppings, transformed Nauru into a prosperous empire overnight. Imagine this. In 1975, the average Nauruan earned $76,000, 3 times more than an American. Nauru became a mini Las Vegas in the Pacific, where Cadillacs and Land Rovers parade on narrow streets like they were cruising down Beverly Hills. But like all fairy tales, this beautiful dream couldn't last forever. Rapid exploitation quickly depleted the precious resource. In just a few decades, the wealthy paradise turned into a debt-ridden desert. All that remains of the golden era are abandoned cars, crumbling buildings, and a population facing a harsh reality. But Nauru's story doesn't end there. How could a country plummet from such heights to such depths so quickly? And is there any way for Nauru to escape this predicament? Join me as we explore the dramatic twists in the tale of this strange island. When paradise turns into hell, the heartbreaking story of Nauru. Have you ever heard of a cursed paradise? Let me tell you about Nauru, the island where dreams of wealth turned into an environmental nightmare. Phosphate, Nauru's white gold, was once an economic miracle, transforming this tiny island nation into one of the richest places on Earth. But like a Greek tragedy, this very resource became a double-edged sword, cutting off the island's future. Can you imagine? In just a few decades, Nauru's lush landscape changed beyond recognition. Once thriving tropical forests are now a wasteland, filled with deep pits like the surface of the moon. Sadly, warning bells rang as early as the 1960s, but no one seemed to listen. The situation became so dire that in 1962, even Australia's Prime Minister Robert Menzies had to publicly acknowledge responsibility. They even considered a bold plan: relocating Nauru's entire population to another island. Can you believe it? A nation forced to abandon its homeland due to environmental devastation? But the people of Nauru chose to stay. In the shadow of an uncertain future, they decided to face the consequences of their short-lived wealth. It was a brave decision, but was it the right one? Nauru's story doesn't end here. How can such a tiny nation recover from such an environmental disaster? And are there lessons from this story for today's world? Join me as we explore the next dramatic turns in Nauru's journey, where the line between paradise and hell is thinner than ever. From wealthy paradise to poverty abyss. Imagine a nation that once stood shoulder to shoulder with the world's richest powers, now struggling to survive. That's the heartbreaking story of Nauru, a tiny island in the Pacific Ocean that has experienced a dizzying economic roller coaster. When the phosphate gold mine ran dry in the 1980s, Nauru plunged into a never-ending crisis. The economy collapsed, leaving behind a wasteland and a gloomy future. In a desperate effort, they discovered a secondary phosphate deposit, but this new hope lasted only a few short years. In just a decade, Nauru once again stood on the edge of the abyss. The economy was shattered, the environment severely damaged. But this was just the beginning of a series of tragedies. When things seemed like they couldn't get any worse, fate had even more horrifying shocks in store for Nauru. Are you curious to know what Nauru had to do to survive? And is there any hope for the future of this island? Join me as we explore the next chapter in Nauru's dramatic story, where the line between paradise and hell is thinner than ever. Prison in Paradise, the heartbreaking story of Nauru. Imagine a tiny tropical paradise in the Pacific Ocean, once a symbol of wealth and prosperity. That's Nauru, the small island with a tragic story I'm about to tell you. When the white gold phosphate ran out, Nauru fell into a whirlwind of chaos. Corruption and money laundering spread like an incurable disease. Climate change, like an invisible enemy, gradually destroyed the fishing industry, the people's last lifeline. Can you believe it? A country with an 80% unemployment rate, where hope seems buried along with the depleted phosphate mines. And then, like a twist in a horror movie, in 2001, Australia made a shocking proposal: turn Nauru into a detention center for refugees. Facing bankruptcy, the Nauru government had to agree. Thus, the Nauru Regional Processing Center was born, a name that sounds harmless but hides a brutal reality. Imagine being a refugee seeking a better life in Australia, but instead of reaching your dream country, you're sent to Nauru, where terrible living conditions, abuse, and human rights violations occur daily. No wonder the International Criminal Court had to speak up, along with strong condemnation from the UN and human rights organizations worldwide. But the story doesn't end there. In a desperate attempt to control information, the Nauru government even banned Facebook in 2015. They said it was to protect people from pornography, but everyone knew the truth behind it. They wanted to hide what was happening in the detention center. And guess what? It wasn't until 2016 that Nauru officially abolished the death penalty. This shows that life on the island is still full of tensions and harsh policies. Nauru has now become a painful symbol, a warning about the price to pay when resources are depleted and choices disappear. From a wealthy paradise, this island has turned into an open prison where hope seems buried along with the phosphate mines of the past. Nauru's story isn't just a lesson about environment and economy, but also a painful reminder about the value of human rights and dignity. Will there ever be a day when Nauru can escape this dark shadow and find the light of hope again? That's the question the whole world is waiting to be answered. And so, we've come to the end of our journey exploring Nauru, the mysterious island in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. Through surprising stories and shocking facts, we hope we've given you a deep insight into this place. Nauru isn't just a strange destination, it's a profound lesson about the fragility of prosperity and the importance of protecting the environment. If you're like us, always eager to explore the hidden corners of the world and immerse yourself in unique cultures, join us on our next adventures. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our journeys. We promise to keep bringing you fascinating stories and fresh perspectives about the world around us. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. See you on the next exciting adventure.